Welcome to a new vlog and video in cooperation with ReiseJung. We're taking a look at the first day on board of the beautiful Porto Mirante in Portugal. We're not sailing today, therefore there is no route map, but here you can see where Porto is located. We're starting at the airport of Porto, where we arrived 2 videos ago with our flight with Lufthansa, and our local guide picked us up there and brought us to our bus, and with the bus we are now heading to a restaurant first. We arrived in the morning, therefore it was a bit too early to check in on board, so we headed to a restaurant first, where we were firstly greeted by the cat of the restaurant, and then it was time for a fantastic first lunch, a first Portuguese lunch. The food was actually very tasty and very nice. We got some different local dishes and we also got some very good feedback by our guests about the food, and we were also very happy because when you're going to a restaurant with a big group you end up quite easily in a tourist trap, but we were lucky we had a very nice restaurant with actually pretty good food. Then it was time to head into the city center of Porto, as there was still some time before we could board our beautiful Porto Mirante. Unfortunately it was a little bit less time than we had planned for the visit in Porto because our flight was delayed by more than 1 hour, but still there was a little bit of time to discover the city center. Due to a very important public holiday which took place the day before, the São João, there were still a few streets in the city closed, so we had to stop a bit outside of the main tourist part of the city. Instead we stopped at the Clérigos Church, which is also a very nice place. It's close to the famous library Lello. Here we can see 2 churches right next to each other, the Igreja do Carmo and the Igreja dos Carmelitas. And then we made a little tour around the place with our bus, and then we stopped in front of the Clérigos Church, which we can see here, and from here we had now about 1 hour to see a bit of the city center of Porto. So we are at the moment above the old town, and whilst most guests were exploring the area around the Clérigos Church, we headed down to the São Bento station, which is the most famous station of Porto due to the azulejos tile pictures that you can see there. Azulejos are the blue and white tiles showing some local images. They are very famous for Portugal, and here in the station São Bento you can see them perfectly. We were the only ones going there because most guests booked the excursion, which will happen the next day, and then you will go to the station anyway, but I am on board to make the announcements, and the ship is sailing during the excursion from Porto to another port where the guests are then coming back, so I had to stay on board. After that it was time to head back to the bus, and with the bus we are now crossing the river Douro for the first time. Here we can see the beautiful river, we can see the mouth of the river in the background. There we can see the Atlantic Ocean, and if you take a very close look on the left side you can also already spot the Porto Mirante, where we are now heading. Now it's time to board. Porto Mirante was docked in Afurada, which is not in Porto anymore, as it's the other side of the Douro, and on the other side of the Douro there's a city called Vila Nova de Gaia, but both cities have grown together to one big one. And now it's time to head on board wonderful Porto Mirante. You've seen the ship in my last video. Here we can see a plane. This is actually a second Lufthansa flight from Frankfurt, and in this flight is the second part of our group. We were flying with 2 different flights, as we had a quite big group, so we had to split up for 2 flights, and this was the second one. Unfortunately, this one even more delayed by several hours. Here we can take a look at a beautiful cabin, 17 square meters, and of course with a very nice and modern interior. We have 2 big wardrobes, but that's not all. For storage, there's also more storage under the table. On the left side there's a fridge and a coffee machine, and on the right side there is a desk. Of course there's also a big TV available and a comfortable bed. There's also a small seating area. I changed the small stool for the chair so I can actually work properly on the desk. And here we can see the bathroom, which is also very nice and spacious, and even comes with a rain shower. After exploring the cabin and the ship for a bit, it was then time for the welcome cocktail and a first fantastic dinner on board. We were staying in Porto overnight, so we're not sailing today, we're leaving tomorrow in the morning. Quite frequently you can see the logo of Viva Cruises in this video. Viva Cruises belongs to the ship owner Skilla. It's their own cruise operator, and the Porto Mirante is mainly sailing for them, but we managed to charter her for this cruise. So all you can see here has nothing to do with Viva Cruises. They have a totally different product. The cruise, as it is in this video, can only be experienced with ReiseJung. And that's it for this video. Here you can see when the next video with the second day on board will be uploaded and the name of the song. As always, I'd like to say thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure to comment, like, subscribe, or share the video link. And I hope to see you in my next video, or maybe one day on board of one of our cruises. More information on that can be found on reisejung.de and of course also in the next videos.